Shalom everyone, and today we study Parashat VaYehi, the last parasha in the book of Genesis, Bereshit. You can find it in Genesis 47, verse 28. VaYehi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim 17 shana. And the name of the parasha, VaYehi, very similar to the story of Chayei Sarah. We hear about Sarah, that the life of Sarah in the story that tells about her departure. Same thing about Yaakov. The whole parasha, the last parasha of Bereshit, is about the departure of Jacob and his leaving of this physical world and his burial. That's the main topic. And however, like with Sarah, the major word is VaYehi. Now, English translation, and he lived. But you have to understand that the word here, to live, is not equal, it's not equal to the English word live. Depends on the reference. And let us understand what are we talking about. We're talking about Jacob. It says in the first verse that Jacob lived in the land of Egypt for 17 years. 17 is a code word because 17 is numerical value, gematria, tov, good, which means, and the Zohar explains it also, his life and the last 17 years of his life when he was just living in Egypt were good. His son is the ruler of Egypt. His other sons are around him. His grandchildren, everybody is righteous. Everybody is having a very spiritual household. And also, as we're going to learn, Jacob is reaching a very, very high level of awareness, even prophecy, not just prophecy, as the Zohar is saying, the highest level of prophecy any human being ever arrived to, except for Moses. So this is just the opening. The whole parasha is relatively very, very short, only 85 verses. This is probably the shortest parasha in the book of Genesis. And 85, again, is a code. 85 is peh. Peh, a mouth. A mouth, if you study Kabbalah, you understand, it's all about codes, that the language of the Torah is encoded, and a mouth means manifestation. A mouth means outcome, which means the whole power of the book of Bereshit, Genesis, is coming here to manifestation. Here, when Jacob, the last of the three forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he is right now establishing the most powerful system founded by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That system changes along history the life of humanity forever. There are many, many forces today trying to erase that power, that influence of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob over the history of humanity. However, any trial to prevent that from happening is futile. This power is too strong. Humanity's development is dependent on the forces that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob established. They are called the chariots, and their legacy, it's not just about the legacy, they established the spiritual multidimensional connection that human beings are also spiritual beings. We, as human beings, can live in both dimensions, the spiritual, supernatural, and the physical, at once without contradiction. Just Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob not just taught how to live in both dimensions, but how to maneuver all the time between the two dimensions. And doing that, you realize the key for true successful life, of what is called the tree of life. Abraham symbolizing the ability to tap into the cosmic force of chesed, loving kindness. It's a cosmic force. It's not just a feeling, which means there's a feeling that the person is feeling, that animals can feel loving kindness also. Animals can feel also judgment. However, there's a difference between the animalistic domain and the metaphysical, supernatural domain of the three forces. Chesed on the right, loving kindness, and judgment, Gvura, on the left, and the synthesis between the two, being able to put the boundaries with love and with kindness without the need to react, but because of knowing the rules, like in electricity. There's no uh, there's no fight in electricity. They just balance. As long as you balance the forces, same thing in driving a car. It's all about using forces and balancing them so these forces move you forward and not exploding into your face. So this is a bit about the story, a summary of the whole book of Genesis, teaching us how the fathers and the mothers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, created the basic idea, the basic cloud connection that human beings since then need to use or can use in order to create a life that is really called life, living. Okay, so the idea is that we have that in the beginning, that VaYehi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim, and here we have about the idea of the departure of Jacob. And here we're going to come into it, but Jacob's departure with the word VaYehi, which means reaching, not just being alive, which means according to the ministry, according to the government, you are alive. Therefore, you're registered as a citizen or something like this, or a taxpayer. Depends how your government looks at you. And or are you really alive, which means do you really live in the supernatural and the physical dimension, both without any contradictions, just simply being alive. So, how do you get to it? We'll come to it later on. This is one idea of this parasha. The second idea of the parasha is when uh, Jacob is starting to bless his children, and it starts with his grandchildren. You can find it in chapter 48, verse 1, when Jacob is starting by blessing the two sons of Joseph. Here, Joseph is being officially crowned as the firstborn, although he's just the firstborn of Rachel. He was planned to be the firstborn. We learn about it a lot in Parashat VaYetze. Jacob's intention on the first night with Leah was to bring to the world Joseph, and Joseph comes because your intentions are very, very important. And when you mean well, things will come out well, although it doesn't look like this during the process, as life is basically about. Uh, it doesn't matter how great are your intentions, the process in this physical world is usually messed up. And how do we overcome the need to get upset about the mess in between? This is one of the major ideas of the book of Genesis, and especially and we can see it in Parashat VaYehi. Later on, as part of that blessing, we have the prophecies of the end of days. It starts still with the blessings of the children of Joseph, Menashe and Ephraim, when he starts in chapter 48, verse 7, ואני בבואי מפדן מתה עלי רחל, when I came from Padan, from Haran, Rachel died upon me in the land of Canaan, and the Zohar is asking, why does Jacob have to tell that to Joseph? Joseph was there when it happened. And the answer is that we are talking in this parasha, again, we have to look simultaneously at every verse that it's happening in the supernatural dimension and in the physical dimension at once. So what looks like as Jacob is talking to Joseph, okay, on his deathbed, it's more than that, it's a prophecy. It's a prophecy talking about the end of days. Later on, and basically the story about Rachel dying in the land of Canaan and the legacy of Rachel and her burial in Bethlehem, not in Hebron, which Hebron is not that far from Bethlehem. Another few hours walk and you are in Hebron. Why didn't Jacob take Rachel a few hours more and bury her in the cave of Machpelah? No, she's buried in Bethlehem. And as Zohar explained, that's part of the prophecy that Rachel is buried on the road where everybody is, where people need protection. And it's one of the most powerful prophecies about that, and the Zohar is explaining the prophecy that during the return to Zion of the children of Rachel, the children of Jacob, the children of Israel, as they come back in the last redemption, it won't be, the Zohar says, at once. It's going to be a long, slow process of the Israelites or the Jews returning to their homeland. And the protective force behind it will be Rachel. Rachel that is buried on the road where people are on their way to their destination. And here it speaks about, the Zohar is speaking about the sacrifice, the victims. It doesn't speak about victims, but more offering. How all of those who are going to give away their lives during the long process of their returning to Zion of the children of Israel, Jacob, when they return back in the end of days, they're going to be wars. That's why it's hinted in the words, as Zohar says, Beit Lechem. Lechem means bread, but it's also the source of lilachem, war, to fight. Israel is not going to be reached in peace. It's going to be a long war with many, many battles. And those are going to basically devote themselves for the journey, for the reaching to the land of their home forefathers and taking control over it and establishing the land, the country of Israel all over again. The Zohar is saying, don't, Rachel, do not cry, because God is promising her, they already are back. My promise is, it's done. It's a done deal. You don't have to cry. That's going to happen. Yes, it's going to be a long, slow process. Many are going to die during the battles on the land of Israel. However, this is a done deal. So we are realizing that's happening in our days. And here comes also One of the greatest verses of protection in the whole Bible, the whole Tanakh, which is being used by Jewish parents to bless their children every Friday night and the nights of holidays and anytime. You can find it in Genesis 48, verse 16. Hamalach hagoel oti mikol ra. Jacob is blessing his grandchildren. However, he's telling from now on, you're going to bless your children and your children's children till the end of days with that blessing. Hamalach hagoel oti mikol ra, the angel redeeming me from all evil, yevarech et hanarim, he will bless the boys. ויקרא בהם שמי ושם אבותי, and my name will be called upon them, and the name of my forefathers, Abraham ויצחק. וידגו לאור בקרב הארץ, and they will be multiplied like fish in the land. So this is one of the most common blessings, and think almost 30, almost between 3,500 to 4,000 years ago. And we're still blessing our children the same words, the same language, till today. Nothing has been changed. Why? It's working. And now, after blessing the sons of Joseph, chapter 48, Vayikra Yaakov el banav, and Jacob calls all his sons. And then something very special, Vayomer, and he says, He'asfu, gather, ve'agid alachem, I'll tell you, et asher yikra etchem b'acharit hayamim, and I will tell you what will happen to you at the end of days. I think that in the whole Bible, this is the first time we read these words, the end of days, acharit hayamim. It's not the end of days. Acharit means usually when you use the word acharit is when you have like a show and we are talking about the finale, like the last scene, last chapter. That is acharit hayamim, acharit ha'maaseh. Hikavtzu v'shimu bnei Yaakov, and he's starting like a prophecy. Verse 2, gather and listen, Bnei Yaakov, the children of Jacob, Veshimu al Yisrael avichem, and listen and hear to Israel your father. He's using the words Yaakov and Israel in the same sentence. It starts like a prophecy. However, it looks like kind of blessings, although these are prophecies. And just going into it can take us maybe another year. But why do we need these prophecies? We need the prophecies like the words of Jacob to Joseph about the departure of Rachel. We need that in order to have some guidelines. The same way we need the whole Torah. It's not about the end of days. It's about the end of days. It's a manifestation of the today. So how things end, it depends on how do you behave. So the prophecies are basically just as a guideline, what to expect, but beyond that, there's something more powerful than listening to prophecies, because you don't see them as prophecies, and most of the commentators are saying that Jacob, he thought he's going to prophesy, and the moment he opened his mouth, the prophecy disappeared, so he just blessed his sons. That's a simplistic commentary. The Zohar does not agree with it. The Zohar is, there's only a whole volume just about Parashat VaYehi, as we said, the shortest parasha in the book of Genesis. Why? Dealing with those prophecies of the end of days. But the prophecies we'll see, it's not just about the end of days. It's about every day. Now that we are part, according to the description, we are part of that era that is called the end of days, which means when Israel celebrates Memorial Day once a year, just a day before the Independence Day, because you don't have the Independence Day without those people that you have to commemorate that basically they, thanks to them, we can celebrate Independence Day. But when you mention the names of the people who fought for the freedom of Israel, as the prophecies of the Zohar is saying, the prophecy of Jacob is saying, you don't start from 1948 because the slow journey fighting for independence, for the independent Jewish community in the Promised Land, that is starting already in the 1860s. And therefore, the mentioning of those people who gave their lives for that is starting from from the 1860s, which means since then we already realizing there was a fight, and the fight was slow and fierce and relentless. However, the fight cannot be stopped because the prophecies are stronger than any politics or any economical or any kind of other national, international movements. Now, so in order to understand how to deal with the prophecies, there's no way we cannot ignore one of the most powerful parts of this parasha that is hinted in the previous parashot also, and that is in chapter 50, verse 14. וישוב יוסף מצרימה, הוא ואחיו וכל האלים אותו לקבור את אביו, אחרי קוברו את אביו. The funeral procession goes from Egypt all the way to Hebron. Jacob is being buried together with Abraham and Sarah, Jacob and as Yitzchak and Rivka, and Leah, he's buried there with all those great fathers. And everybody is coming back from the funeral. Verse 15, ויראו אחי יוסף כי מת אביהם, ויאמרו, and the brothers of Joseph saw that their father is dead, and now they talk to each other. לו יסתמנו יוסף והשב ישיב לנו את כל הרעה שגמלנו איתו. We are afraid that Joseph will hate us, and now that Abba, our father, is dead, he will give us back. He will take the revenge for all what we did to him. Verse 16, ויצוו אל יוסף לאמור. And that's very important to each one of us. ויצוו אל יוסף לאמור, so they ordered Joseph, saying, אביך ציווה לפני מותו לאמור, your father left a decree, an order before he died. כה תאמרו ליוסף, אנא שא נא פשע אחיך. You should tell Joseph, please bear or be tolerant or tolerate the crime of your brothers and their sin, v'chatatam, ki ra gmalucha, they did you bad, evil. Ata sana lefesha avdei Eloi avicha. And you should tolerate it. And as they talk to him, because it's expected that he's now waiting to take the revenge now that the father is gone, and they don't really understand Joseph. ויבך יוסף בדבם אליו. Feel it inside. Joseph is crying when they talk to him because they didn't really get it. Verse 18, וילכו גם אחיו ויפלו לפניו, they fall in front of him, they just bowing down in front of him. ויאמרו, and they say, הננו לך לעבדים, we will be your slaves. ויאמר עליהם יוסף, and Joseph is answering, like he said to them earlier a few times, אל תיראו, don't be afraid, כי על תחת אלוהים אני, Am I God? ואתם חשבתם עליי רעה. You thought about me evil. You had evil intentions. אלוהים חשבה לטובה. God had a good thought. למען עשו כיום הזה לחיות עמרב. In order for today to save a big nation. אל תיראו אנוכי אקלקל אתכם. He promises them. I will feed you. I will support you. You and your children. וינחם אותם. And Joseph is right now consoling them. וידבר ליבם, and he's talking to their heart. This is unbelievable. It's like, but we have to understand that. As Joseph said before, it's very hard to be Joseph. But if you want to connect to true success, you have to understand Joseph. He does not need a prophecy. He needs Emunah, a real, true trust in the Creator, that whatever happens is part of the plan. And sometimes, most of the times, you don't understand what's going on till the last chapter, like in every good book. You don't understand what's going on. You're thrilled, you're upset. You're in suspense. But that's life. And why you don't understand? Because you can never taste the taste of the most tastiest fruit unless you wait till the last day when it's really ripe. All along those days that the fruit is on the tree, it is green, it is hard, it is bitter. You don't show half job to people who are not really wise enough because they can get upset. Why? Because the process is always messy. And you need to have trust. You need to have emunah. Because if you don't have emunah, which is a total connection to the Creator, patience and tolerance, understanding that whatever we see is orchestrated by the Creator Himself. Why certain things are really sour? As I said before, the most sweetest fruits that grow on a tree could be also watermelon. They have a sour, bitter, horrible taste before they are ripe. Why? That's the way things are. The building of the most beautiful home is very messy till the home is ready. If you can't stand the mess, do not get into the kitchen. Simple as that. However, we, as human beings, whatever we go through is the necessary process for our completion. And this is messy. If it won't be messy, there won't be a place for the ripening to happen. And we here not to have a nice, easy, comfortable life. We here, as the Zohar is teaching us in the introduction to the Zohar, to turn the darkness into light and the bitterness into sweet. If you can't understand that, and you can't understand that Melo kol haaretz kvodo, the whole earth is full of God's glory. The whole, even those sour and bitter moments that are scary, upsetting. You want to be Joseph? You want to connect to the tree of life? That Joseph is the key for that tree of life? That Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rivka, Yaakov, Rachel and Leah, they are the main trunk of that tree of life? You have to see their lives. They did not have a nice one, an easy one. However, they achieved greatness by using the opportunities. They did not fall. They simply rose, every fall, they use it as the same way you're using the downfall to create energy, to create power, to create greatness. People who do not fall, they do not grow. As King Solomon says, the righteous will fall 7 times and rise. Righteous people are not the people that do not fall. They do not make mistakes. They are the ones who use the fall in order to generate the rise. This is the idea of Parashat VaYehi. This is the idea of the whole Torah. So when Joseph is saying, you guys, you didn't get it, yeah, you made a mistake. You have to make the teshuvah yourself. You have to do your own transformation. Why did you think evil? Why were you scared for me and therefore you wanted to kill me and then you sold me as a slave? But I'm not holding it against you because I use that as it's all from God, it's all for the good. And what was the result? Now I feed all of you. Okay, you want to kill me? And now I'm feeding you all. Is this the story? Yes, this is the story. This is the story. This is your story. This is my story. This is all of us. As long as we don't understand it, we don't understand what does it mean, the end of days, because you can never understand the story unless you understand that concept, that what is Acharit Hayamim? What is the end of days? When the Zohar is explaining it again and again and again, when people look backwards and they realize that everything was good. Even the worst chapters of humanity, finally, it turned out good. Did all of them have to happen? No. It was part of our choices. But even when we chose evil, and it turned to be so painful and disastrous, finally, that was just a stage of the ripening, the growth, and the richness of the next chapter. We have to remember that, otherwise we lose it. And when you lose it, which means you get afraid, you get upset, you know that you're best. And you're not really, what's ruling it is just fear. And when fear rules, you behave like an animal, which means you're very not nice, not intelligent, and you're not really using the opportunity. Okay, another moment will come and another till finally you're going to use it up. And then you grow and you move up the level, the ladder. So let's see that topic, the way it's explained over here in the Zohar itself. Verse 1 in the Zohar Parashat VaYehi. ויחי יעקב בארץ מצרים, אמר רבי יוסי, ליבה חמה בנבואה, במצרים, דיון בנוי בכמה גלבן עד הכה, ועדי דנה דקץ משיחה. Rabbi Yossi said the heart of Jacob saw the prophecy. What prophecy? When he was in Egypt, that his children are going to experience a few exiles, which means all the exiles. How many exiles? You can't even count. There was when the first temple was destroyed. Yes, that was not the first exile. The first exile was by the Assyrian exile. And that also was with stages when the tribes of Reuven, Gad, and half Manasseh were exiled by the Assyrians, and then the rest of the 10 tribes were exiled, and they were exiled until today. We can find only remnants here and there, something in India, Central Asia, and we're not very sure still, where are they? That's called still known one of the biggest mystery of history. Where did the 10 tribes disappear to? And then there was the exile of Yehuda, the state of Judah. That started the exile from Babylon to Babylon. Okay, And that started before the destruction of the first temple. And then during the destruction, there was another exile into Babylon, Iraq, and Iran of today, and into Egypt, and into what is today North Africa, and into Yemen. And we are talking about 2,600 years ago. And 2,600 years ago, we have already that few exiles. Was that over? And then when we had problems with Haman and so on, and Jews fled Babylon and Persia into today's Georgia and Central Asia, and it went on and on and on. And the second temple was destroyed, and a lot of Jews were taken to Italy, to Rome, and that didn't stop. And then exile more from Italy to Central Europe and Eastern, and then to Eastern Europe. There's no end to it. Till there were so many, couldn't find even a country almost without Jews exiling there. And how do you know? Because when you are somewhere and you pray 3 times a day and asking God to take you back home, you're in exile. So yes, the weather could be nice, it could be not nice. You could be make a living, or it's hard to make a living. And there's anti-Semitism, there's not, it doesn't matter, you're still in exile. And every time you eat even a cookie, and the end of the cookie, you say a blessing and you ask, can we just please go back home to Jerusalem? You're in exile. And if you're in exile, it means you never let go of your original homeland. And Jacob saw that all the way to the end when he was in Egypt. Verse 2, I'm reading from the translation. And Jacob reached that prophecy of VaYehi, it's a code word. If there are many levels of prophecy, the highest of them all is prophecy from the level that is called VaYehi. Only 2 people arrived to that prophecy, as I said before, Jacob and Moses. And Rabbi Ashla continues and explains, Ki ha'arat ha'chokhmah hi sod chaim. Because what is really life? When you receive the illumination that is of chokhmah. What is chokhmah? That's one of the 10 sefirot. This is the second of the 10 sefirot. Second from the top. They're almost the highest. And the illumination from chokhmah, as it says, va'chokhmah techaye ba'alea. Why are we using the word chokhmah? Just forgot the quote. This quote is from Ecclesiastes 7:12. Wisdom will give life to the one who holds on to it. Okay? Are we talking about, so what is wisdom? There are a lot of people that are defined as wise people, and they're very angry. I remember as a kid watching all kinds of professors for philosophy on TV, and they were always angry and upset and hateful. And it's like had so much ego. And as a child, I was saying, how could somebody be wise if his face is so dark and so cranky? It's like, he's not really wise. If he's wise, the wisdom should help him to be happier. And that's why it says, Chokhmat Adam Ta'ir Panav. The wisdom of a person will make his face shine. So if the person's face is dark all the time, and everybody says he's wise, somebody is cheating. Fake news and fake everything is ancient as the life of humanity. So we are talking about that kind of life that when you really connected to that wisdom that allows you to connect to the tree of life, to the source of the tree of life, which is called Chokhmah, Olam Atzilut, you're really alive. Only then you're really alive. Till you reach that, you can have a lot. I met a lot of people that had a lot. They looked good, they were healthy, they had a lot of money and houses, and everything was really top of the top. And they were miserable, which means they were not really alive. They were dying slowly, and everything that they owned made them upset. It's like, I have that, so I'm upset. What's not good? Why is it not enough? Why it's never enough? Because when you're looking for something where it's not, when you're looking for happiness and fulfillment only in the physical materialistic domain, you'll never find it. You have to develop that aspect of spiritual awareness. And that only when you study real true spirituality, when you study Kabbalah, when you study the Torah from a spiritual dimension, you train your brain, your heart, and your soul to live in both dimensions. So, however, in order to achieve that, and there are many levels of prophecy, וזה אמרו לא מטה לנבואה ויחי אלא במצרים. Those two great people, Jacob and Moses, they reached the level that is called VaYehi. And that's mentioned also with Moses, כי לא ירני אדם וחי. That idea of chai, VaYehi, is the same, connecting to that power that is called life, like real force, the true force of life. They reached that in Egypt. להיותו מקבל הנבואה מטבור למעלה עד הזרע. In order to receive the highest light, ושם נאמר וראית את אחוריי ופניי לא יראו. And it's again codes mentioned when Moses is telling God, show me your face. And God is answering, you can see only my behind, cannot see my face. God has a face and behind, God forbid, how do you talk? It's like, but it's all the codes of the Torah. When we're talking about face, we're talking about revelation. God reveals himself to all of his creatures. When is that they can experience that revelation? They need to experience the back. What is the back? The need, the desire, the vessel. The necessity is the mother of all invention. When is that we invent? Vent an idea from outside the box, vent it in, invent, we vent it in. From where? From the other side, from the other dimension. When can we do that? When we really feel the need. And instead of crying and being victims and suffer and complain, we believe there is a solution. If there's a need, and there will be a will. If there's a will, there will be a way. When you have that state of mind, you need Emunah for that. If I need that, it means that the Creator put me here, so I experience that need, so I can fulfill that need. Otherwise, why I'm here? Just to suffer? No way, because there's one power that guides everything, that created everything, that is running the show. That's the Creator. The Creator is all good. All good. And therefore, when you have that certainty, today, psychologists call it a positive psychological capital. People who have that certainty and they have that resilience and hopefulness and optimism, they have no logical idea how is that going to be resolved, but they know has to be resolved. Why? Would God throw me under the bus? Will he just put me into a dead end place? Impossible. When you have that resilience and that hopefulness, that vision and that trust and basically Emunah, connection, certainty, and optimism and trust. And that's called Emunah in Hebrew. When you have that Emunah, that's it. You bring it in, you vent it in, and then the ideas pop and you become innovative because you have Emunah. Because you can't take the idea that the trouble is just there and it's not an opportunity. These are the people, and that is something that you need to gain through study, through meditation, through daily prayers. You have to gain that faith, that connection, that emunah that we see over here. So when you see the necessity, you know already the fulfillment will come. When you see the need, you're looking already for the fulfillment. When you see the question, you're looking for the answer. When you have the crisis, you're looking for the opportunity. This is the idea. The hardest aspect of it is called Egypt, Mitzrayim, Meitzarim, the narrow place when you feel that you are being confined in the most horrible darkness, and you say, it's only an opportunity. That's only when you are in Egypt. Okay, Egypt is a state of mind. Egypt is when you are in such darkness that your brain tells you there's no way out of here. It's simple. This is the end. This is the end. It's finished. Hopelessness, it's finished. And then comes the soul and says, no, that's only a vessel for fulfillment. This is only an opportunity. And your brain says, are you crazy? And the soul is saying, no, I'm not crazy. I'm realistic, because that's why the world was created, to bring us to these dark moments and to turn the darkness into light, to bring us into this hopelessness, and then to create hope within the hopelessness. And when you are in such a need, you can bring in the strongest the emunah, the greater is the light. Jacob and Moses, they revealed so much light that is called the highest level of prophecy. So they had a vision. And we walk in their vision till today. The vision of a better life, the vision of hope coming out of darkness, the vision that it's never the end unless it's a happy ending. Okay? You have to understand it. And that's why it says in the Zohar, משמע כיוון שלא קיבל מבחינת הפנים אלא מאחוריי, הוא חי. Only when you have that lack, that what is called behind, when you feel that God turned his back to you, and your brain says there's no God. And if there is a God, he doesn't like me. And your soul is saying, no, it's the opposite. He loves me the most because he's with me. Doesn't matter how far. Even if I walk in the valley of darkness, which in Hebrew is tzalmavet, the shadow of death, I will not fear because I know the Creator God is with me. This is our job. It's not just, okay, how do we refrain falling to places like this? You don't want to refrain. Oh, you want to do your best, but God will do the rest. Sometimes we have to fall into these moments of need. So you ask, Abba, Dad, save me. And then you can invent. And then you are alive. That's what the Zohar says. Only then, hu chai, he is alive. כתיב VaYehi יעקב, it says, and Jacob lived. שום שחט החוכמה מבחינת אחוריים דנו במצרים, דנו VaYehi. Okay, that's repeating the same idea. Which means the strongest is the need. The bigger the darkness, the bigger the light that can be revealed out of it. רצה יעקב, verse 3, רצה יעקב לומר נבואות על הגלויות שיקרו לבניו בארץ כנען, ובכל הארץ אשר גרו בה. Jacob wanted to warn his children from all the exiles that his children are going to exile to. Which means what he wanted to say, you got it in Egypt. What does it mean? A harsh, dark, hopeless exile? You tasted one, you taste them all. You just understand it. Because all the exiles are included in the exile of Egypt. And when he saw that, and he felt, and he saw the pain of his children along the generations, in all the exile all over the planet, היה ליבו נשבר, his heart broke. And that's why it's hinted when it says, יש שבר במצרים. It's a game of words. Shever has one meaning, which means there's food in Egypt, but shever means also breaking down, a broken heart. And therefore, verse 4 in the Zohar Sulam, הגיע ויחי יעקב במצרים ולא היה שמח. Jacob was not happy. כי בארץ ההיא קשרם של עמים. Egypt was, we know. Everybody today even, all the movies about Egypt are about the curse of the pharaohs, about dark magic, about horror. It's horror movies. I can never watch these movies. It's not good for your soul. Okay? But, you see the campaign of a new movies coming out, and it's horrific. Why? That's Egypt. That's Egypt. That's where the Israelites went to the place, the source, the center of sorcery and dark magic. They're very good at it. Okay? It was not the only horrible thing that happened in Egypt, but we won't go into it. And that was like the center of darkness all over the world. However, you reach that place, you overcome that kind of darkness, you get the greatest light revelation, the prophecy that Jacob achieved. So we have to understand. To understand that what are we talking about? Ki eretz Mitzrayim miklipa kasha. The land of Egypt, the word, the land of Egypt, is a symbol. Okay? This is klipa kasha. It's a hard shell. What is klipa? In Hebrew, it means a shell. Also, it means, in the Kabbalistic dictionary, it means a dark force holding on to a spark, a holy spark, which means, basically, this is our story. What is the story? שזוהמת כל עמים קשורים בה. The filth of all the nations is centered in Egypt. משום זה לא היה שם בשמחה. That's why Jacob was not very happy in Egypt, because all of the filth. But what is that filth? When the universe was created, and during the creation, step by step, free will had to be created. And then when we are talking about one of the highest steps, we're talking about the world of Keter, Adam Kadmon, even above Atzilut. When we're talking about the evolution of the creation, the highest, the closest to the infinite is Adam Kadmon. Then below that is Olam Atzilut, which is also very, very high. Underneath Olam Atzilut, there is Olam Bria. Underneath Olam Bria, there is Olam Yetzirah. And we are in Olam Asiyah, the lowest of them all. In Olam Adam Kadmon, okay, there were still in each one of them, there are many, 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 many sub-levels. In one of them, there is the level that is called Olam Nekudim, and over there was Shvirat HaKelim. The vessels have been broken. Why did they broke? So we can fix them. And that came out later on with the sin of Adam, and then Egypt. And what does it mean? Our job as humans is to correct, to repair all those broken vessels from Adam Kadmon Olam HaNikudim, all the way through the sin of Adam and Eve, all the way through all the other stages till today. And what are we doing here? You're facing hardship, darkness, negativity, failure, whatever, seduction. It's all, there's one story and only one story. Our job is to turn the darkness into light. Our job is to, when we do that, we save what is called the lost sparks, the sparks that came, that were thrown to the darkness with the breaking of the vessels. We repair the broken vessels. When we do what Joseph did, which is, you guys had a bad intention, it came out right. What's your problem? Don't worry. Don't worry. It's all good. Just be happy. Just be with Emunah. This is the story. There's no other story. Everything else is a stub story. It's kind of a cover story for the real event. ונודע שאין מדרגת החוכמה יכולה להאיר רק בהתקללות עמו חסדים. So how do you repair the broken vessels? You need first to be aware of the need, the lack, as an opportunity. However, these levels of illumination, Chokhmah, the pure original light is the light of Chokhmah, light of wisdom. ונודע שאין מדרגת החוכמה יכולה להאיר רק בהתקללות עם חסדים. But the only way you can correct that is with chesed, with loving kindness. Yeah, but you don't know how stressed out I am. You don't know my trouble. When I came first time to America and you try to talk to people about Kabbalah and people say to you, it's a bad day today. And I was like, why do you say that? It's horrible. It's legitimate to say, I don't have time. I'm not interested. Why are you saying it's a bad day today? Words have power. There's never a bad day. There's only a bad attitude. How many disasters in the history of humanity were turned into great success? The only way you can repair the real light of essence, Chokhmah, is with all the Chasadim, the light of loving kindness. As Nikret, so you never say it's a bad day today. You always try to bring the loving kindness in order to kosher, to build a true vessel, sustainable vessel for the real true light of essence, or the Chokhmah Chai, and that with loving kindness. אלא חי ששום אדם לא יוכל לזכות לחוכמה אלא מקבלים בהתקלות חסדים שהמקבל נקרא אז חי. So, it's not just that you really have emunah in the good, you need also to be totally focused on doing good. Chasadim, in order to turn Egypt. Each one of us has his own personal Egypt. Each one of us, every time we experience hardship, crisis, pain, suffering, misunderstanding, injustice, it's all one story. It means, when you're digging you're digging for gold or for diamonds. Okay, first you find the coal when you're looking for diamonds. Coal, okay, is dark and dirty and it's very hard to breathe and it can kill you. Okay, but behind the coal, there are diamonds. Okay, same thing in our lives. When you reach the darkness and negativity and hardship and injustice, and instead of complaining, look for the diamonds. Simply look for the diamonds. How you can find them? When you create the light of loving kindness. Then it will guide you. And then you find that power that of life. And when you put them together, when synthesize together, the need, that it's okay to need, to want, to desire, celebration, excitement, revelation, prophecy, whatever that is good, solution. But you need to get out of the box. And what is out of the box? You're not a victim. You're not in trouble. It's only opportunity. How do you create it? You trust there's something good waiting, and you generate the light of chasadim. That light of chasadim, of loving kindness, becomes the vessel to contain the light, the real true light, and to create the real correction. And that is the guideline that Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rivka, Yaakov, Rachel and Leah, and then Joseph simply showed us the way. There's no other way, which means, yeah, you can call it in different names. You can have a different cultural background, but the core idea is A, never give up on your desire to be successful, because God created you to be successful, to connect to greatness and to connect to his light. However, there's a price, no free gifts. The price is that it will appear in disguise of klipa, of a shell. You won't be able to see it. It will look dark, terrible, but it will, you have to train yourself that this is Emunah, that this is an opportunity, and pave it with love and kindness. And when you do that, you'll emerge out of it much greater. That's called being really alive. Thank you, and success to all of us. A lot of patience and a lot of tolerance and a lot of power. Never forgetting that.